This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. Unfortunately, it's time to bring in the coroner because Cortana is dead. Microsoft officially turned off support for the Cortana standalone application in Windows 11 this week. If you did not update your application and you went and typed in a question or spoke a question, you would get back the same response for all questions. And it said Cortana in Windows as a standalone app is deprecated. Select the link below to learn more. If you did go and do the update, after the update, all you would get is the interaction box was gone, a message in the middle of the screen. Cortana in Windows as a standalone app is deprecated. That is it. That is the last piece of Cortana really out there at this point, was the app in Windows 11. When it got started, it was on Windows Phone. Windows Phone is now gone. It moved into the Xbox, but that was rolled back a couple of years ago. It was put into devices, the Harman Kardon Invoke, the Johnson Controls Glass. Both of those had removed it years ago, 2019 maybe, 2018. And this was kind of the last place that she was, and now she is not. So that on its own is disappointing, because there's a lot that they could have done with it, especially now that they're doing the whole Bing chat thing as a separate thing. If that had been the underlying power behind, like, a renovated Cortana, I bet people would have loved it. But, you know, whatever. No more hearing Jen from anywhere. No more songs. No more the Cortana eye turning into the ring when she did a Gollum impersonation or anything like that. All gone. Makes me sad. I have had lots of things with Cortana integrated, including the Harman Kardon Invoke, the Johnson Controls Glass, Windows Phone, Windows 8, 10, and 11. So I was a big supporter. Unfortunately, current CEO Satya Nadella was not. But this is something that Microsoft is famous for. Right, Abram? Like, having a toy, getting people excited about it, and then just moving on to the next thing. Windows Phone.
Listen, let's not call that a unique feature of Microsoft. Google
for
does
sure.
it all the time, too.
Google. There's a whole website about Google's graveyard.
Yeah, I'm hoping that some more things go to Google's graveyard, too. So the so yeah, I think, look, I think you make a good point about the AI. What's really interesting that we're not seeing with the AI is that and maybe it's just like the speed and the processing power necessary to make this happen, but you're not really seeing the voice, the text is like the voice part be linked up with the text chat, even though it seems so logical that is what you would do.
Agreed.
I think it's just a matter of like the response time, but I'm not even really sure why that would be a problem, because there's so much AI that does really good text to speech, right? So for sure they could very easily have it talk to you if they wanted to. It's the whole thing is very interesting when you think about it, because they're not really they're anthropomorphizing and they're not anthropomorphizing at the same time with the Bing Chat,
Mm-hmm.
uh, right? Because it'll talk to you from the first person, as
Right.
will ChatGPT, as will Google's AIs, SGE and Bard will all talk to you with I. I did this. I said that. I think I do this. Whatever.
For better or
But
worse.
they don't have it. But they don't have a name, right?
Right.
They don't have a name. So it's well, I guess Bard has a name, but nobody is like, "Hi, Bard. Hi, I'm Bard." Like they
Yeah.
don't do that, right? It's it's interesting, right? Because now things that have a name are seen as old fashioned. Alexa is probably like, "Oh, that's old fashioned now."
That that
Siri,
division has lost a ton of money and might be on the chopping block.
right? So, I mean, my hope is that
From
I'm just gonna
from
opine
from
here.
the
My
from the chat real quick. Cortana is joining all the Xbox Live games that are no longer supported. Yeah, well that's true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope that what we saw with those could very well be what we see with the current generative AI trend, which is, oh, it seemed so cool because it seemed lifelike at the beginning, and then you started to actually realize that this isn't how you want to interact with your computer.
Right.
Um, and I think that happened a lot with things like Cortana. Now,
Yeah.
granted, I'm, you know, I hasten to say power user, but like I don't like stuff that's cute. That gets, cute is fine, but I don't like stuff that gets in my way in order to be cute,
Yeah.
right? I, I will never forget one summer when I was in college. I had well, yeah, I think it was when I was in college. A friend of mine, his father ran some type of programming IT service company or something. He's like, "Hey, we'll hire you for the summer to help us with the project." I said, "Oh, what's the project?" Well, there's this new thing that came out from Microsoft called Microsoft Bob,
Oh
and
God.
what we want is for you to help us research Microsoft Bob and find out how we can use this to help our clients or whatever. So I spent like 2 or 3 days looking at Microsoft Bob, and I was like, I don't know what else I can tell you guys. It's not very useful. It's okay for people who don't know what they're doing, but it's actually more of a hindrance than a help, right? But it looks cute for people who don't know what they're doing. So
Mm-hmm.
Cortana and Alexa and and other natural language interfaces uh, kind of have that feel to them also, where it's like, oh, okay, it was cute that I could ask you all these things, and maybe I'll still do it sometimes. But the number one thing I'm just going to do is ask you to turn on the lights,
Uh huh.
right? And and now we have ChatGPT and we have Bing Chat and we have Google stuff, and obviously, it can do a lot more in terms of doing work that we think of as creative. Uh, It's not really creative, but we can think of it as such if we want.
Right.
Um, and the I think the fad behind those is already to some extent starting to fade because the amount of traffic on ChatGPT dropped. Yeah, you could, you can use them to fake your way through through a writing assignment or something,
Mm-hmm.
but um, and maybe people will continue to use them for that kind of thing. But it's not like the the good use of it is not as is not as good as people think. And like
Right.
shoving it in your face, I think the thing is the status says first we shove this. We think we're so smart that we shove this in everyone's face, and Microsoft shoved Cortana in people's face like crazy. For
Yeah.
example, every time was this with Windows 11 install or just Windows
Yes.
10 install when it
11.
said a little Wi-Fi here, a little whatever there. Like it would start talking to you while
Yeah.
you're. That is the. I'm sure you
Hi.
know that that is like the world's most annoying thing.
Hi, I'm Cortana. Let me help you get your computer set up.
Like right. So that's oriented again toward people who don't know what they're doing
Right.
because because after the first time that you heard that, or even the first time that I heard that, but certainly the 50th time, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't believe this. Especially because I forgot to turn the sound off, and now I'm
Uh-huh.
embarrassed by this because I'm installing something in my office with, and people start to hear it. Like, why did you do this to me, Microsoft? This was not. Nobody wants this. This is no
Yeah.
good.
And but
So
and that's exactly at this point what they're doing with this whole Bing AI thing or Viva or whatever name ends up overseeing this integration. Um, but it's all the Bing chat AI in the background. Um, they're like, okay, well, we're going to prototype this here. We're going to let people use it. Oh, some people like it? All right, well, it's going to be everywhere. No, 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 no. Shh. Hold on. Don't Cortana this. Don't put it in everybody's face so quick. Do it in its thing, get it worked out, and then find out. Do studies. Find out where people might find it useful. Don't just all of a sudden have it show up in Skype for whatever reason. Just cool off. Hold on. Give us a minute to ingest this thing and figure out if we care, and if we do, how we care. Because you know, like you said, that's what they did with Cortana. It was like, okay, we're gonna test it on Windows Phone. Okay, some people like it on Windows Phone. Fantastic. Well, let's make devices. Whoop. Hold on. Yes, I was very excited about those devices because I enjoy Jen's voice. That's that's a very different thing, though. They go full bore
yeah.
on these like internal toy initiatives before they quite understand if people care, and if they do, how and why.
So right. So the thing is, we are in the middle of a very dangerous hype cycle right now around artificial intelligence, and we can get to that in another segment or
Yeah.
whatever. So, Cortana was sort of a prior hype cycle, right? It was like, oh, yeah, we were in the hype cycle around these voice assistants.
Yeah.
Now, ChatGPT showed up. Everybody thought it was, the coolest thing they'd seen. And now we're in the middle of an incredible hype cycle where it has to be in everything. My guess is that we haven't yet seen companies like figure out how they're going to treat this, to give this a name or whatever, to name theirs. Like it's ChatGPT, it's not some name. But um, maybe because the named ones are considered last gen or something. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do eventually end up giving it a name and more of a personality. And but it won't be Cortana because it's sort of like Internet Explorer and Edge, right? Was Edge really, did they need to rename it Edge? Could they have just kept it Internet Explorer and just redesigned it as they redesigned IE like 5 times or 10
Yeah.
times? They could have, but I guess they thought the name IE had bad
Yeah.
associations, so we better rename this thing.
The
So I think
browser
that's what's going to
everyone
happen
loves
with
to hate.
Cortana. Right. So, they launched Edge, and, Edge, people like Edge better, but is it really just because, hey, we, we could have just kept, if they kept the name IE, they probably would have a lesser reception, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it
Almost
just
certainly.
had a bad reputation.
Yeah.
So I think
And
Cortana, well,
people got turned off to Cortana not uh, because some people invested in it, right? Developers invested in the technology because you could build skills for it just like you can Alexa or Siri. So developers got screwed during the shutdowns. Hardware got screwed. Johnson Controls. I bet Johnson Controls will never work with Microsoft again after Glass. And Harman Kardon was pretty pissed off with the Invoke, both with sales and then later the shutdown out from under them. But then consumers who did invest in those ecosystems and the Microsoft pulled the rug out from under them got pissed off too. Me, for example. I mean, I still have 2 Glass thermostats. I just can't talk to them anymore. Even though they've got a microphone and a wake word, they could have easily done a firmware update and put Alexa or Google Home in there, but they didn't. Which, had its own like weird thing, right? There's all this stuff that went around that we talked. Sometimes there's a brand that can't be rehabilitated. OnlyFans. What it is today is not what it was intended to be. They wanted to remove all of that from the platform, and you and I both said, don't think it can be done. That's the death of the platform. They got to change the name because there's no way they survive it. I think it's the same thing here. They've got to change the name. It can't be Cortana anymore because the brand has already been damaged. So,
yep.
And it's a shame because I'd love to continue to have Jen's voice all around me like I used to. She's a fantastic voice actor. And
it never did anything to hurt anyone, It's not like, it did something harmful. It just there just wasn't as much commitment to it as there was to Alexa.
Yeah.
And Siri and others.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Apple seems to have all but abandoned Siri, and Amazon seems to have cut about half the Alexa team. So I don't know how much commitment there is in that arena at all right now. We had the topic about Siri a couple months ago, and during the last round of layoffs, the Alexa team got hit real hard. So there may not be commitment around any of this because Amazon put out a study on Alexa that shows exactly what you said. People use it for the weather and triggering things that are external. That's it. That's all people use it for. I have an Echo Show in my kitchen, one of the big ones, and I use it as a Fire TV because it was a nice, cheap, small kitchen television.
Yeah, I mean it's not useless. I mean, also for making calls or doing a check-in on someone is a decent use case. I think what it's proven is that a voice interface. I mean, there's question about the text interface for this, but a voice interface is just inherently limited, right?
Yeah.
Like people
even
think
in Star
that
Trek.
they've seen Star Trek. Yeah,
but even in Star Trek, only like 2% of the interaction with the computer is via voice. It's for little things like the turbo lift, but for real stuff, they're at computer panels. They're tapping on things to get information back.
Yeah, it's not the best interface because it's not the best interface. People think that it is, but it's not. I think we may have talked about this previously, but there was some type of thing where they had UI designers talk about the Star Trek UIs and whether they're good or not.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they talked about was that the voice UI is actually not as good as people think, because studies have shown people like menus and choices, and you have to know exactly what you want and say exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Perfectly right to get
True.
what you need from a voice interface.
True. Yeah, you've got to have the two choices are you have to know exactly what you want, or you have to deal with one of those phone trees, and people don't like either of those.
Right.
So yeah, makes sense. So farewell, Cortana. Hopefully, Jen, we will hear your voice in a future game, because I will definitely miss that voice, except, of course, when installing Windows 11, because, you know, that's all pre-recorded stuff, so we'll see what happens there. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.